Yeah, so we're obviously it's just been a complicated time, I guess, for everyone. I said we've been dealing it with you a lot longer than you guys, so it's not been too bad to be honest. And then yeah, so it's been here for like 3 months now, so we've just kind of been going for it. And obviously now it's kind of flipped. That's the weird thing about it. Everything's flipped over. It used to be us versus the world. Everyone's scared of Koreans, and then now it's turned to no one wants to let anyone else go into Korea. It's been a
Yeah.
complicated time, and it's just yeah, stories spreading out everywhere. A lot of things going on, just different sources, different things saying about different countries, and just a lot of confusion. I think is the main thing between everyone. Yeah.
How 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 have you felt very alien as an English person during the whole outbreak? Or have you
I
felt
said
sort of
it's not been too bad, but it's getting a lot worse at the moment. So I said like, so I live obviously in central Seoul. So central Seoul is not too bad. There's a big like foreign population, and the last like 5 6 years has got a lot better. So obviously like I said, I've been here for 6 7 months now. I've never really had any issues at all, as long as you kind of obviously abide by the kind of just the general like regular day to day kind of life and rules. But now the issue is that there's been a lot of cases of foreigners come to Seoul and they've not been following the 14-day quarantine, and they've been getting a lot of abuse online, a lot of abuse kind of in people. And basically the idea is that if that continues, then it's probably going to start getting it back to us, the ones who have obviously been here for a long time, because you don't know who's been abroad. I said there was one person from the UK came, and like within a day or two he was going out drinking, clubbing and stuff, and then he found out they had coronavirus and all that kind of thing. So that's caused a lot of havoc. And at the moment, it's not too bad. But if this keeps going on and on, then it's going to get worse for us people here. But so luckily, I live in like near Itaewon and Hanam area, so there's a lot of international kind of people. We're right next to the army base, so there's obviously not too bad. As I said, if you go to Itaewon now, it's kind of just a mix of foreigners slash kind of obviously Koreans as well. It's not too, yeah, I don't know. I'm worried it's going to get worse. I think all my friends are just worried that if it keeps going, if there's going to be more cases of foreigners not abiding by the rules, not wearing the masks, not kind of washing the hands as everyone else is doing, going to the clubs and things. Like I said there's been a few like was it posts on the Facebook groups of like Americans, English people going like, are the clubs in Hongdae and Hanam and Itaewon open? And like it's just that kind of silliness and that kind of I guess not selfishness. I think it's they're not really thinking, but I wouldn't say that they're selfish to that point. But they're the ones that are kind of getting the slack, and I'm just worried that they're gonna start pushing it towards us as they keep going on. Yeah,
mm,
so it's a
how
kind of
how
ticking time bomb.
yeah, how severe are like the implications right now? Is it all shops are open certain restricted hours, all the clubs are
Yeah,
shut, or is it still like normal?
yeah. So that's the most weirdest thing. So that I keep getting messages from my friends. Obviously, you guys back home are in lockdown now for what? Is it 6 days? Is it?
We've
No,
just passed
three
a week.
weeks.
Is it? You've been what? You've been in lockdown for 3 weeks already?
No, it's been a week, but
Oh
yeah, it's
yeah,
three
sorry,
weeks
yeah, sorry, yeah,
overall.
sorry, I got that wrong. So yeah, it's about six days ish, and then basically is that I keep getting texts of people going like, "How have you done this for 3 4 weeks?" Obviously, because we've had it. Obviously, we got worried about the coronavirus in the kind of January February time, so Korea got a bit of like a worry then, and obviously people have been thinking that we're in lockdown since then. But the only thing to change really is just obviously everyone wears masks, but in Korea you wear masks anyway because this is like winter slash spring season, and you got the pollution level was really high. So like every day before this, it would have been like pollution level would be above 100. And if it's above 100 pollution level, you basically wear your mask. So I said, obviously, Korea is just full of masks at the moment. So we've kind of all normally we'd be wearing masks every day. And now with the coronavirus, obviously, everyone had the masks already, which is really good. So if there was no much of a worry of supply of masks because everyone's wearing them every day anyway. And then
Mm.
I said, everyone's wearing masks. They're like, I don't know, it's kind of complicated. So life's as usual, but it's just everyone's playing by the rules and everyone's kind of. I said the only thing is that Korea is very good at working together. If the government say to do something, everyone does it. Everyone's wearing masks. Everyone's washing their hands. You got literally. Say from my house to my school. I go on two buses. Every bus in the whole Seoul basically has hand wash every time you go on there. They got anti-bac on every single bus door. When you leave the bus, there's hand wash. Every single shop, every restaurant, all anti-vax gel and all that kind of stuff in every single door. So there's kind of everyone's working together. The only things that I would say majorly changed is that clubs are all closed. They tried to close any of those really big places where you wouldn't really wear masks. So clubs are closed, cinemas are having a big hit at the moment, obviously because that's a lot of people in one kind of area. I say all the restaurants, all the kind of bars, they were taking quite a big hit about 2, 3 weeks ago when it got very serious. I said back in Daegu, we didn't have too many cases until Daegu happened, and there was a famous church in Daegu, and someone who had coronavirus symptoms. This lady, I think she was like the 31st victim of corona. She's the 31st person to have it in Korea. She went to one of the big masses, and that basically just boomed it across Daegu. And then Daegu had the severe issue. They went onto lockdown. That's the only city that went into lockdown fully. And then that kind of sprinkled around Seoul, and obviously it's kind of that was the biggest hit for us. And then, but like I said, daily life is just as normal. I said I can still go to McDonald's, I can still go on takeaways, I can still go to any restaurant. Every single restaurant I know is open. It's just everyone's kind of walking around with masks. Yeah, I said it's
Yeah,
just strange, but
it's crazy. I think me and Sean were saying earlier, English people have a tendency to like disobey rules
yeah,
and
I
to
said it's
be,
just, and I
I'm
said
still going to go to the pub and,
yeah, I said it's just I think it's one of the few things that you just find is the biggest culture hit is that just kind of everyone is in it together here. I don't know if it's this the culture, the history, but everyone is a team here. Everyone is kind of just making sure that like you're not letting the side down, you're not letting the country down. Like one person not wearing a mask, everyone kind of almost just stares at them sometimes. Like if I went out to the bus and didn't wear a mask, sometimes I might not be let onto the bus, sometimes I might not be let into a restaurant, or they might not even say that, but they're kind of staring at you and they really don't like that thing because I said a lot of people obviously said to me, even because I've been wearing a mask, like why are you wearing masks? It doesn't stop you getting it, but as people said, it stops you spreading it. And then they're like, oh, but do you have it? And obviously, I don't, hopefully, I don't have it. And obviously, I don't think I did have it. But even if I didn't know I had it, I'm still making sure that the people around me in school, around people on the bus, are not getting it as well. And because everyone's playing by those rules, it kind of just works. Like it's a spider web kind of effect. If everyone's doing it,
mm,
and that's why, whereas England, you just need 1 or 2 people to not follow those rules. And that's where the spread just keeps going. And that's where it just
yeah,
won't end. They just kind of keep going and spreading and spreading. You just need 2 or 3 people to kind of not follow those rules. And I think that's looking from Korea back home. I think that's the biggest like worry slash disappointment. I think, and it seems to be getting better by the day from outside of England. I said I don't know what to trust. I said I talked to one friend and they say things are really serious, really bad. Then I talked to maybe different generations, different friends, different family, and everyone is saying different kind of things now. That's the complicated thing, and it's a big worry, especially for the people abroad because now flights are getting a big issue. So I said if anything did happen back home, now I'm starting to worry
yeah,
like how would I get home? So obviously all the big major flights, BA and stuff, they're closed down. It's only a few flights, and they're kind of there's not many emergency flights from Asia and things, and I think there's a few people kind of trapped here and everywhere, and the only flights left are in the extortionate prices. So that's becoming a big issue, I think, for people abroad. Like, what if I said like I think I'm in a good position in Korea, but now I said it's swapped because I was worried about should I go home to be safe, but now it's the other way. Should I like obviously sometimes wish my family would come over here to kind of have that safety net of what it is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, I was going to ask you, did you ever actually consider coming home? Did it ever go through your mind?
Yeah, 100%. I said, obviously, family wise, they were calling me back, especially, I said, because obviously we had China was obviously the first incident. And obviously, basically, with Korea, such a near kind of location, was getting a lot of slack because the Korean government decided not to close the airports towards China. So there was a lot of Chinese internationals still coming into Korea, and that was causing a big kind of ruckus in Korea. There was a lot of people arguing, saying, why have they not stopped the flights from China, blah, blah, blah. And obviously that did have an effect, and obviously I'm sure there was a few people from China that came, but then like during that time, that's when I was the major going, could this spread quickly? Especially when that church happened, when the big boom. I think literally in that church they were obviously using the same water. They were getting back like I'm not sure they were using the same kind of cups and all those kind of things there. And when that big boom happened, the schools all kind of postponed. So I said the state schools in Korea, they were meant to open in about March. Start of March time, and they got delayed all the way for a whole month because they meant to start in March and they ended up getting April, which has been delayed again today. And then because of that, that was a big worry because education is so important in Korea, and the fact that the government decided to stop the schools going back, just like in England, obviously schools start in September. They basically postponed the whole September start. Obviously over here it's March. And I think that was the when I was like, I guess they must know, they must be worried about this more than we think. And obviously I saw the flights, and obviously I had the flights booked back home. But then I said, luckily, I guess I had my job, and I obviously things weren't too bad. And I said I'm quite safe. I wear masks all the time. I think I was in an okay position, but if the rest of the world wasn't as it is now, I think I probably would have most likely have tried to work my way home at some point if things have kind of kept that kind of scale of how Korea was going at that point. Yeah. So, but then I said it's swapped around. That's the scariest thing. It's just the speed of it, the speed of Italy and those things. And then living here, and I said it's just seeing the scale of things, how obviously how Italy and how obviously France and Spain are going now, and obviously how it's so kind of stopped the curve as early as they could. And I said, obviously, I think everyone has that thanks now. And I think everyone's pretty confident in the government's kind of tactics of doing it. I said they followed, I think they were most just logical about it, I'd say. I think they followed their kind of free rules. I think I saw Germany kind of sticking to their kind of rules as well. I said Korea kind of followed the same free rules. I think one is precaution, so wearing masks. I said obviously, I said even like this, I've got every person I know has just got packed masks. I said I've got literally enough to last me for a good while. And obviously, I think they've recommended that you can wear them 3 days in a row, then start a new one. I said literally every building, I said I've got anti-vax. So literally every day I come in, wash my hands with water and soap, and then maybe put a little bit of anti-vax on. And I said, obviously, because I've learned that from the Koreans. So every time we go out for a Korean meal with all our Korean friends, they won't touch any of the utensils until every single one's washed their hand. And this is before the coronavirus. I said they just got that natural kind of care for what they do, but they care about their bodies a lot. I said everyone is very obviously wants to be the best kind of person, and luckily it's pushed that kind of stuff onto me. So I said even obviously back home, you get home and not many people would really think about washing hands and obviously taking off the shoes, the dirt on the floor, all these little steps that in the Korean life is just natural to do. And I think that's helped a lot really. So I said that's the precautions kind of side, and there's the two more. So the Korean government had the precaution, which is the one of stopping it happening as before it's happened as much as it could. Two is then the testing. So I said we're one of the first ones, I think, to do that mass testing. I said obviously I think it was all in the news about Daegu doing the drive-through testing, which I said once again it's just logical. Just what's the point of that was my scariest thing. Even just going to hospital for a sore throat, going to hospital for anything, is if I go into that hospital environment, there's obviously so much more of a chance of someone having that kind of virus or those kind of things there. So that was logical approach there. I said it was just the mass testing. Obviously, basically, they even, I think at one point they said testing was relatively free. If you have symptoms, I think it's free at the moment. If you don't have symptoms, you can pay for it. And if your GP recommends it, it's free. So straight away, that cost-wise is great. One of the earliest things I think was really, really important, which I'm not sure if many people have done, is they agreed that any illegal immigrants in the country, if you go to a hospital and say you're a legal immigrant, you'll get the test for free if you think you have it. And they won't say to the police, they won't say to the government. So which is it's just every country is going to have illegal immigrants. Every country is going to have those little select group of people hiding it. And the fact that they said that straight away really means that they're stopping it and they really care about getting this under control. So that was another thing. They've really tried that. And I said, I don't think many people know about that kind of thing. And then the main thing, which I said is the most important thing, which for me is the one that stopped it straight away, was the third one. So precaution was number one, testing is number two, and then the tracking is number three. So I said that's the biggest difference I'd say about from what I've seen from most places. So if someone got coronavirus, if someone went to my local doctors here and got coronavirus, I would get a text on my phone. So if I got my phone here, so every day I get about 6 or 7 texts. Everyone in the whole country gets the same texts. So I said, if you look at my phone, obviously they're in Korean. And basically all the text says is that it says one person in your area. So I live in Hannam, Gangnam. I work in Gangnam. I live in Hannam, Stachitsuwon. And it will say this person got tested on this day at this hospital. Go onto the website to see where they've been the last 1 or 2 weeks. And then from that, I can literally look back from my text and I can see they went. So that's really quite a scary thing. You can see that someone literally went to the Starbucks that I went to 3-4 days ago, but I worked out I wasn't there on the same day, so it's not too bad. Things like that. Luckily, I don't think I've had any contact with anyone in that kind of region, but there's so many good things about it. I said obviously there was a few Korean university students who were very, very smart, and they ended up making a little map. So that on my phone I have a map of the whole of Seoul, the whole of Korea. You zoom into your area, and there's a green dot for every single place anyone with the coronavirus that's been tested has been. So straight away you can see where they've been. And the way they've done it is that anyone that gets tested for the coronavirus and gets positive, they look through all their bank details, and they literally see where they have spent money in the last 2 weeks. And then they post it online, which I said is a very tricky thing. I said, for us, I think at the moment I think it's worked amazingly. I said, and if your debit card's been spent at the same time, the same day as this person, you will get a text saying, "Please come to the doctor. You have been in contact with a Korean person that's had the coronavirus. Please go and see a doctor straight away and get a test," which is amazing. It is a bit of a worry, obviously, the fact that they can see your bank details, they can see what you've been doing, they can see it's kind of that mass surveillance. They look through the CCTV to see who's been there, who's been paying cash, who's been paying debit cards. But I think if there was ever a time for that kind of surveillance to happen, it's probably this, and it is majorly effective. I think it is literally, and I think one of the biggest things is that everyone has got this map, everyone has seen the map, everyone can see where these people are, and it becomes a lot more real. So it's not like I said before, it's like luckily none of us, well, none of my friends, none of my family have kind of been affected by the coronavirus illness wise. But on my map, I can see that literally a 2 minute walk away, someone was walking down that street and had the coronavirus. On my way to Gangnam, the Gangnam station, which I go to almost every day because that's near my work, there's been about 3 or 4 cases of people walking through Gangnam station in the last 2 weeks. So now I know not to go near Gangnam station because it's obviously a very kind of big focus point, and it just becomes a little bit more like every person you're walking past, they could kind of have it, and it becomes a bit more. It's just that I said it's kind of that fear, but that fear in this case is a good fear, isn't it? It's making you think about it and it's making you kind of worry. I said I think it's one of the most important things that having these masks is that when you're wearing it, it's not just stopping you coughing, it's not just stopping you sneezing, it's making you remember that the coronavirus is there. Like every time you kind of fidget with it, you remember why you're wearing it, and it stops you touching your fingers, it stops you touching your nose. But I think because a lot of the time it's easy to forget, especially obviously when you're kind of just chatting with your friends and just kind of having a nice time. It's a lot easier to forget about what's going on in the world. But remember, when you see you've got your mask on, when you see people walking around with masks, you kind of always remember, okay, wash my hands, make sure you do this, make sure you do that. So I think it's that psychological aspect of wearing a mask, which I think is really important as well. And I wish everyone was doing it. A lot of people are saying obviously they don't have much effect, but it's just that mental remembrance of you having there's a thing going on right now. This is it's a very useful thing to have.
I think the map is a pretty amazing development. Although, like you say, it's quite intrusive in many ways, and like you can't really test if that's private or not. But that I think, although that is, like you say, you do get a bit of fear from it, and you don't know who. Okay, you do know who's going to have it, and you could have come into contact with them. It makes it a known fear, and I think that can be really anxiety reducing. Because exactly. So many people in the UK, I think a massive part of it is that you are unsure of anyone around you. Because it was probably a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, that they released how many cases there were in each county and then each borough of London, say. But you have no idea whereabouts these cases are. And it's really hard to tell whether I should be hyper concerned about it because there's people who've been to my GP and been to my local supermarket who've come into contact with it and there's been a large amount of cases, or whether I have to be concerned about it, but I can be less concerned because I'm in a more remote location from where it is, and it's like a larger part of it. So I think that's it seems like Korea have had it's all the things I've been reading and being told is that they were preparing for a pandemic when everyone else was putting it off because it didn't seem like a concern at that time. Because until something big happens, not many governments are prepared to spend money to be preparing for something that's not confirmed whether it's going to happen or not. Whereas Korea were always bang on about, okay, we need to prepare for this. This is going to happen one day, and their curve shows compared to everyone else's that they just were so much more ready for it.
Yeah, and I think there's just so many reasons why I think they were ready. I said I think the main thing is they were just being logical. I said that everyone has had these ideas. Everyone everyone that I talk to, anyone our age, all of our friends say, obviously, why are we not doing the testing? Why are we not doing the kind of the drive-through testing, all those kind of things? Why are we not working out who's got it, where they've been? Those just simple things, but I said Korea have just pushed through and just said yes, just yes and yes. And I think that's that they literally didn't have that fear of saying no, or didn't have the fear of thinking. And I said there's a few reasons why. So one, I'd say, is that they had MERS and SARS. So I think it was like, I'm not too sure of dates, but somewhere around 2007, 2008, there was, I think it was MERS or SARS. So this is obviously before I came. And in 2015, they had one of the two, MERS or SARS in either. And obviously they were very similar to this virus. And I think there was a big impact in Korea, business-wise, and obviously deaths as well. So I think one, they had that kind of, they did not want this to happen again. They got a lot of criticism for how they reacted last time. They got told they did not react fast enough. They got told that they were not doing a good enough job. The government was obviously in a lot of issues then. So I think one, they had to make sure they got it right this time. But obviously, then I think the second one was that because of that big explosion down south, and obviously that was one of the biggest explosions that we kind of, at that point, obviously it was China was the big one, then South Korea got hit. And obviously if you look at those kind of grids where obviously the numbers go up of the cases, you always see South Korea straight away is the one that's catching up. And that was because of that big boom, that big church, they spread out straight away. They meet almost like every single day. I think they have to meet 3 times a week. If they don't go to church 3 times a week, then they get kicked out of the church. They had to keep meeting up. And that basically means they had to, and there was a very young population, I think, in it as well. I'm trying to make sure I get the facts right, but because of that, it spread very fast. And I think they had to react with that. And I said, luckily, I think this is one of the kind of, I said it was a very weird thing, but because that was in one big city, Daegu, so it's kind of one of the districts down south, and it wasn't in Seoul straight away, it meant all the other cities could prepare because they knew that the people from Daegu, because it was during kind of the Chinese New Year kind of things, there was a lot of people we have a few days off then. It was a long weekend, was when that Chinese New Year happened. So we knew a lot of people would be coming back from Daegu back to Seoul, back round to Korea. So all the other cities had that chance to kind of prepare themselves, which is quite good. Whereas I said England, Italy, France, it was a slow spread to start. And I think it's gone to all different cities at the kind of similar times, rather than the big impact in one place and then slowly spreading out. So I think that kind of maybe have had almost a positive effect, so the rest of the country get themselves ready, get all the stuff done. I said, secondly, I think Korea, I said, it's just the general culture is that we have obviously the mask ready for the pollution. We had a lot of the stuff already there. And then I think another thing which I said is as maybe a negative or a positive is that there's an election in about 1 or 2 months away. And obviously, as we know, election time, you have to be seen doing the right things. And I think that did have a big impact. The government had to make sure they were doing what the people wanted to make sure that when it comes to election time, things are going to go well. And I think, as I said at the moment, I think from what I can see, friends, obviously Koreans that are talking, things seem very positive for how they've reacted. And obviously now with the news around the world, I think now things are getting more happy. So obviously when it comes to election time, that's going to be a big benefit for those people that are obviously in charge now, President Moon and all those ones. And I said we have the live updates like 3-4 times a day. I said they're just being logical. They're keeping everyone updated. I said literally I get a notification on my phone 4 times a day. They have they have a little announcement of how many people have got it that day, how many people are obviously getting tested. They go through what they're doing from this point onwards. They go through schools. They've been giving money out to certain people, the ones that haven't got money, well, they're kind of the lower income families. Yeah, they've just been kind of going through the simple steps. And I said everyone's working. There's no panic because it was kind of a slow spread as well. So I think everyone's just used to that kind of working together, teamwork. So I think that was one of the biggest difference. It was a shock seeing the panic back home. And I said, it made me panic here. And literally the second I saw that panic, I literally ran to the shops. Literally, like about 2 hours later to go to the shops to go get toilet paper. I was like, if it's happening back home, it might be happening here. Like literally every store, not even touched. And I think that's when the biggest culture difference happened. I think it was kind of one for all back home. But yeah, I think that was it's almost disappointing to see. I think it was a little bit upsetting from obviously someone whose family and friends were all back then, seeing that kind of culture. And I know it was obviously a bit of a roller coaster, kind of escalated a lot, but it was a bit disappointing from out here.
So you're obviously teaching out there.
Yeah.
Are you back in school now? Has that come back too yet? Or
yeah. Oh, I said it. That's a very. So I work for what's called a Hagwon. So I said Hagwons are very complicated. So I work for an international Hagwon. So I teach Koreans and international students, and I teach them English. And then what happens is that, so basically in Korea you have Hagwons, which are very kind of special school, and education is so super vital, super important in Korea. The families will put all their money into education to make sure that their children does the top. I think they're like one of the most overqualified countries. Almost the whole population of young students go to university and then get a degree. So there's so many overqualified. You go to coffee shops, they'll all have degrees. They'll have degrees higher than me and things like that. Because of that, education is so important. So what happened quite a while ago now is that children would go to school from 9 till 3, like a normal kind of school day, and then they would go to a Hagwon after. It's kind of, for us, it's kind of like that. I guess it's called cram school, or almost like extra tutoring. So you'll go to an extra like kind of English and maths class. But over here, it's escalated now. So you have children. So I had the children that I know that will go from school from 8 till 6. So 8 till 3 o'clock normally. Then they'll get a bus on their own to another Hagwon, and they'll do maybe kind of like an hour of English tutoring with someone else. They will then go to another Hagwon, and some children are not studying in Hagwons till at 11 o'clock. And it's all, so Hagwon's all private education. Sometimes it's one-to-one, sometimes it's in a big group. So obviously I have 13 in my class. And then from that point, Hagwons just kept growing and growing because people realized the more money you put into your child, the better they'll do in theory. So obviously they made their children go to these Hagwons all the time. Hagwons then evolved into what they are now, where you can send your child from a Hagwon. Basically, if you came to my school, you would think it was a school, basically. You would think it was no different to any school back home, but all the parents are paying the Hagwon prices, so they pay almost daily, they pay weekly. It's kind of like a private school back home. And then, but the issue is they're not run by the government, so we can choose what we want to do. So how it worked is that all the state schools, so what like we have in obviously back in England, all the state schools, they were meant to open up in March time because they have the Christmas off. They got postponed about a month to about 6th of April. And obviously they said that's been delayed again now. Whereas Hagwons had the choice. Hagwons could have stayed open or they could have stayed closed. Because it's a private institution, they decided what to do. Obviously, that's where I think a lot of people have been worried. So luckily my school, which is that has enough money to keep going. I said we're quite obviously like I think we're quite good reputation. Obviously, we are kind of care about the kids and things like that. Whereas some of the small Hagwons haven't had that opportunity where they only have a few children. They need to make sure they have that money coming. Because obviously some parents don't want to pay. If their child's not going to this private tutoring, private education, then why would they pay? Like you can kind of understand if it's a private education, then that kind of understandable. So some of the Hagwons have had to stay open. And that's had a few issues. There's been a few cases where teachers or students have been found to have the coronavirus. And I think there was some recently in the last few weeks where teachers had it. And that means all the students had to get tested. And that's like one of the big fears. That's why I think one of the schools have been postponed again. So my school was shut kind of for a week or so, and then we've gone to online learning. So just as we're doing now, I will be video calling all my students, all 13 of them. I'll see all their faces at the bottom, and then I'll go through a lesson. I can screen share a PowerPoint, discuss what their learning is. They will then use Google Classroom, Google Drive, all those things. Google is probably the lifesaver at the moment. Everything's connected. So they'll stay on Google the whole time. They'll do a Google video call with me. They'll then go to Google Classroom where all my work is, and they'll complete it on the Google Drive, Google Word, and not Google Word, was it Google Docs and Google, kind of the PowerPoint version of Google. So everything is all very accessible for the children, but I said luckily for my children, they have the ability to go on computers. They're from fairly good kind of backgrounds, and it's been a tough situation for I think a lot. And I think we've been doing it for about 3-4 weeks now, and it is a long day for teachers to be looking at a screen, for the children to be staring at a screen from 8 till 3 every day is, I don't know. It's a very complicated thing. I think it has its benefits and drawbacks. Obviously, they're still getting a good education, but I don't think it's the best for their kind of.
Yeah.
It's not even just the eyesight. It's just the mental health of just sitting in one place like we are doing right now. And so it's fine in little slots. And obviously, we try and keep them active. Obviously, we have PE, we have art, lots of different kind of subjects. But it's a big stretch, and I think that is the biggest worry. So how long it's going to last. And I said the UK has only just gone into that kind of thing, and I've seen all my friends panicking and worrying how they're going to do it. They're trying to sort it out. And I said, you can never be too prepared, especially with working with, I work with 8 and 9 years old, and obviously some of them amazing on iPads, but come to a computer and a mouse, their skills are not really there. So it's my job has now become from teaching to troubleshooting to the kind of literally ICT through. I've had to have children put mirrors up to the screen so I can see what they're doing if they can't screen share. I've had to have one child turn an iPad on, then turn his iPad round so I can see one camera here, one camera here, so I can try and tell him how to open this, open this. It has been a complicated month, and I said I'm a little bit worried about how some of the UK things. I think obviously not everyone has access to the computers. So I think there's going to be a lot of it missing of education. But
Yeah.
I said I think everyone's going through the same thing. I think everyone has to keep reminding that it's not just you, it's not just us, everyone worldly now. I think people keep forgetting that it's a kind of team effort.
Yeah, definitely. I think, Sean, you even said that your university struggled when it came to the transition to on. I know that's like a huge institution, and they also.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Like I've had some of my children obviously are at my school. Their parents are university lecturers, and they've messaged me, they've emailed me saying, "Thank you for what you're doing. We know how hard it is," and I think now everyone is starting to realize how challenging it is, but you have to get the children into the kind of doing the same thing every single day. So I have the same reading task every day, so the children don't have to think about the complicated ICT stuff. That's just become like natural to them now. They know where to find the work. They know where to find this. It's just the first 2 weeks were a long learning curve for everyone, I think. So it was changing literally every day. I said at the start I was recording every lesson, so I literally had my laptop at home, recorded a lesson, played it on the Monday, and some of the kids skipped it, some of the kids fast forwarded it, some kids, if I'm not there checking they're watching it, they won't watch it. And some kids, when you're not physically or virtually there, they, even though they're watching it, they're not actually listening.
You clock out.
I literally spent like a week and a half recording these lessons, really good lessons, really fun ones, to then having to scrap everything and then do everything live. And then we've worked out that live is probably the best thing you can do. So you can see their faces, are they watching? You can straight away react. But it's like doing our jobs basically, but it's just time consuming. And it's just, I said, we trained to stand up in front of the class and do all these things. And then our training has just almost kind of gone to absolutely, it's gone. Yeah. Now we have to change our jobs basically.
I take it the parents, because they're quite young, the parents sit with them, or are they like alone?
I said it's a big mix. I said, and we've had, obviously I think everyone's going to have the same thing. Some parents said, obviously I have two sisters that are similar teachers and we have the similar things between us. So some parents are saying the work's too hard. Some parents are saying the work's too easy. You have some parents that will sit next to their child and help, which is very good. You have some parents that, like the university students, I have some that are pharmacists and things like this. They can't stay and they have to be working because they've got the key workers jobs. Luckily, a lot of our children have babysitters, but they're not equipped to help with the kind of the learning and things. So the children that's doing it, luckily they obviously know me, and luckily my children are at a good enough English level, so they all speak very good English. They can listen to me, even though the Koreans, they are very good at kind of following instructions and they're quite sensible. But and then you said you have some of the parents who are behind the camera, and I think that's quite a funny thing to see, where you see the little child's face look up, and then you can kind of sometimes we've heard whispers and answers coming from certain directions. But I said you can understand, like I said, now the parents can see how the children are reacting to how they're reacting to the teacher, how they're reacting in front of their friends. So I think it's almost a benefit. I get a lot of parents are now seeing what their children are like in the educational way from their own view, which is good and bad.
Do you feel like something Tom and I have spoken about before, about a possible sort of change after all of this pandemic and coronavirus goes away? Do you think it's possible that teaching becomes more remote? Because obviously universities, I can definitely see happening that way. But what about lower school? Because obviously, like you said, it's a lot more unique with younger children. Parents have to work and stuff, whereas the university students are a different sort of situation.
Yeah, I think a lot of my teaching friends have said that when they come back in, one is that we need to make sure we prepare for this again. So make sure if this ever happens again, they need to know how to do all this online learning. A lot of people have seen how effective it is actually, and like having, instead of, obviously because we practice handwriting, obviously we make sure they're writing in English, but we've seen that a lot of them struggle to be typing. And obviously in the 21st century, realized how, like, when do we us free handwrite to that extent? We obviously might have diaries, notes, we can write short sentences here and everywhere, not many people, unless you're obviously kind of an author or something, that kind of things, but we mostly send emails, especially in our jobs. We write blogs online. The key typing is a big issue, and obviously, especially in schools where back home in the state schools, ICT is always still a kind of forgotten subject. And
So
whatever
joke
school you go
lessons.
to, it's always kind of the forgotten one.
Yeah.
And obviously, being from our generation, we know how important it is to be that kind of on that the first step of the ICT kind of ladder, the coding, the typing and stuff. So I think people will realize how, like I said, the children who don't have access to this, they're behind. They straight away. Like this has helped us connect with people. Has helped us teach. Like I said, literally, I'm doing my lessons that I planned a few weeks ago. I'm literally having the exact same lesson with children. This wouldn't have been done without the ICT. So I think ICT, I'm hoping, is going to have a big resurgence. I said we're probably going to carry on doing certain lessons through the computers. Obviously, we won't be doing the video live chat, but they can all have the PowerPoint on the slide. They can be going through it themselves. They can be typing on the PowerPoints and things. Obviously, we had that before, but we never had a focus on it, really. It's always been like a side venture. It's always been like, oh, this would be a nice lesson today. We can do a Friday where we do the writing on a screen. But I think it needs to become a big kind of key focus. And I reckon one's parents' opinions, I'm hoping, will change as well. So I said, obviously, there's been a lot of posts, and I'm sure mostly probably created by teachers that have had the kind of look how hard our job is. Obviously, how much we have to do this with 30 children in our class. We have to make sure that all the stuff that they're doing at home, we have to do it with all 30 children. We have to make sure that every single one of them gets to this task. Sometimes the parents will see how from 9 a.m. to 3 a.m. is a long time for some children to do these tasks and to get all this amazing writing. I said, obviously, I was back in year 2, so I was teaching like 7, 8 years old, and the children were like kind of made to write 2-3 pages and things, which they can do it, but it's a lot of work. And we have 30 children, so I'm hoping maybe there's a change of like the expectations maybe from parents of like what we can do with that amount of children in our class. Maybe that will help. I'm not too sure off the top of my head if there's anything else, but I'm sure there's going to be changes in every aspect of life. I'm hoping. I said there needs to be changes in a lot of things. I think this hopefully in a year's time, when this is obviously fully over and we can kind of look back and we can maybe see the benefits of this happening and cultural changes, governmental changes and things. And I said I think handshaking in Korea and things like that. Obviously, we kind of just nod the heads, but it's just things like that you don't really think about. Obviously, the amount of people that you handshake, especially in business, especially in jobs, things like that. Handshake is important. I understand it, but is there a need? And that kind of just little things like that. Just the kind of the amount maybe we do things like that, and just and general cleanliness of people. So just the general washing your hands, having that little anti-bac kind of in your backpack, just if anything goes wrong. Yeah. So, but I'm sure there'll be lots of changes with education as well. But
I think
they're going to struggle with money, I think, as well, though. So obviously there's a lot of teachers out, and just I don't know how they're going to catch up with those, especially the GCSEs and A levels. I'm glad I'm not in control of those kind of children. Obviously that's a big job. The amount of children that are going to university this year, I said I'm not really kept up to date of how they're going to solve that problem. But because the last I heard, they cancelled all the testing and the exams, didn't they?
Yeah, all testing is either being made either remote, or they're taking predicted grades, or they're letting people retake exams in like September time. But obviously by then unis have already taken who they want on and stuff. So if you're an A-level student, you don't want to hear, oh, I flunked my mocks because I didn't think they were important, as most people do.
Yeah, and I said I'm sure there's loads of people our age.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's loads of people our age that have obviously would have been in that position and probably didn't do very well in the mocks, didn't do very well with predicted grades, and then pushed that extra hard and finally got into, I said, I think I was one of them. I said, my mocks did not go well. My AS levels did not go well, but luckily I pushed hard in the last 6 months and I got to where I wanted to be. I got the degrees that I wanted. And I think that's a hard thing to hit with a lot of people.
I think as well. Go on, Tom.
No, so I was just on one more quote. I was going to wrap it up. That's all. Go on.
Well, I was just going to make a point about. I think it's also interesting that there's a social class element to this whole thing as well. Because Kieran touched on like the people who can't do the remote learning because they haven't got the facilities, the laptops, whatever they do need. And not to make this a big point, but going on into the future, this is going to become more prominent, that you're going to need to support those children so they don't get left behind, because it can so easily happen. And especially in the UK, I know for a fact that many people, although schools don't get the funding they need necessarily, many people rely on what they get in school, whether it be school meals, computers at school, or just or pencils and pencil cases. And a lot of people get that from schools, which they don't get from at home. So that's just another thing. Like you say, financially and stuff, it's going to be a big thing to be able to prop that up.
Yeah, I don't think many people thought about the kind of the laptops, the things people have at home to access stuff. Obviously, in state schools as well. Obviously, everyone's kind of, as long as the school's got the resources, it should be fine. But I said, even my children, obviously, they're in a good case. They have obviously in the kind of the social levels, their social economic levels are in the kind of higher kind of groups. But there's still, if the child has three children, sorry, a family has 3 children, that's 3 laptops that they need to do online learning. Just there's so many issues that a lot of parents are really working out, and I think that's with this kind of family where they can afford to buy that extra laptop to do this extra study, but back home I think it's going to be a big issue, especially if it keeps going for how long it could go on for. I think there's going to be a lot of children that are going to be falling behind. Obviously, a lot of children that kind of get their meals at school, a lot of children kind of have most of their social lives. Obviously, the one kind of the children that are obviously got no brothers and sisters, they're going to have a struggle for the next few weeks. And I said, Korea hasn't been hit hard, and we've had school off for 4 or 5 weeks now, and we've still got another, we think probably another at least 2, 3, 4 weeks left. Maybe it comes back. So the state schools are now going to online learning, just like in England. And I said, our cases are on the down go, and we're still doing it. So I think that's people have to think about all the children at home and those kind of struggling families and how they're going to do. And I think a lot of people just kind of look over them and said they're home, they'll probably be happy, they'll be playing games. But I said, obviously being a teacher in a state schools, not every family's luckily to have that kind of nice kind of environment that we have, with the happy, the food plenty and things. So obviously hopefully they get the support they need, but it's going to be a struggle for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, all right, amazing to hear about it. I literally, you've obviously been like reading a lot about. Obviously, you live there, but you still need to research as in what's going on.
I said because there's quite a big, obviously, because I said the US base is here, so there's obviously a lot of there's about 2. There's obviously we have the Yongsan base, which used to be the main one, but they've kind of moved out of Seoul now. But because of that, there's a big foreign population, especially for Americans. So there's a lot of kind of everything's translated. There's any of the big important news. There's Korea TV or Korea something on Facebook that kind of says all the stuff. So luckily, I'm in a country where I can keep up to date with every news, anything that comes up. There's an English translator. So, and Korea really trying to get that kind of. They want the tourism, so they're really trying to push for that English-speaking kind of culture. Yeah, so luckily it's been nice to keep up to date in it, because it would be worrying to be in a country where I don't know what's going on. But I said, luckily I'm in a good place at the moment, and so now it's becoming more of a worry outside, which is
Well, stay safe anyway.
Yeah, thanks. You too as well.
And we'll speak to you again.
I said I'm sure I can. Korea talking is endless. You can keep going for hours and hours about Korea. So it's not many people know much about it. I think it's kind of hidden, but kind of a lot of people think they know about Korea, but I think it's a lot more interesting than people think. Like I said, it's worth visiting. Obviously, after everything's coming. Yeah, but cheers for that anyway.
All right, mate.
Thanks to you both.
All right, good stuff.
All right.
Bye.